I don't know a lot about step by step, but I love, if you have not been to Farm 12, it is like my new favorite restaurant in the world. Amazing food, the atmosphere is great, and it's just a beautiful location. And during the pandemic, I've been able to eat outside the whole time, which I've loved, because I'm not quite ready to eat inside yet. So take out and inside, but she'll fill you in on the story and the rest of it. So take it away.
Okay. Well, is everybody here live in Puyallup? Yes? Okay. So I will just tell you, I'll just kind of go through the journey of step by step, and then of Farm 12, and then I'll try to make it really short, and then whatever questions you're curious about, then you can ask me. I grew up on a farm in Henderson, Colorado, and I am the oldest of 5 children, and I grew up in a strong 2-parent household. My dad was a seminary graduate, but he owned his own landscaping business, and my mom was a teacher. And when I got to college age, I decided I was going to go to school in Minnesota, in St. Paul, Minnesota. We attended what was then called the Baptist General Conference Church, and they had a school that was part of the conference called Bethel University, which is in St. Paul. So I packed up and moved to St. Paul, Minnesota, where I spent 4 years, and I pursued a teaching degree, which I got. But at the end of my student teaching experience, I had a student teaching experience in my senior year, and on the first day of school in this first grade classroom, all the kids seemed super excited to be there except this one little girl, and thinking that maybe she had just had a rough start to her day, I went over to introduce myself to her, and the moment that kind of our eyes connected, my heart just fell into the pit of my stomach. And I had never seen a human being with such a vacant appearing soul as this little girl seemed to have. And I asked the teacher, what happened? And the teacher said that she had fetal alcohol syndrome. And I had never heard of that before in my life, but the effects of it were immediately apparent when I looked at this little girl. And her name was Leanne, and we were kind of bonded at that moment. She was by my side before school, during school, after school. We were together all the time, and her mom never came to anything during my student teaching time there. And at the end, I got permission to take her to the zoo, which you can no longer do as a teacher. But I went to her very rundown apartment building, and I walked up the stairs to pick her up and take her for the day. And what I experienced in her apartment was just heartbreaking. And I spent the whole day with her at the zoo, and all I could think about was having to take her back into this home environment. And of course I did, but it wasn't long after that that she was put into foster care, and she was adopted. Well, I never saw her again physically after that time. I was able to keep tabs through the teacher with how she was doing. But I met my husband in college, and we got, he is from Fife area. He graduated from Fife High School, and his 3 siblings. And he wanted to move back here. And I said I wouldn't move back here just for him. We were not engaged. And I said, if I got a teaching job, I would move back here and with him. And I got a teaching job at Seattle Christian in, I don't know, is that SeaTac area? And I taught 4th grade, and we got engaged and married that summer. And he and his parents had bought a house, a fixer-upper house. And so while he was fixing it up, we moved out to Bremerton to their lake house, and then moved into this house that we've lived in now for 28 years. We've lived in this 1905 house, and we have 7 daughters, and our oldest is 25 and our youngest is 12. And so we have been very busy. But after my 2nd daughter was born, I just felt like there was something else that I needed to do, and my husband felt that I needed to too. And I just thought if there was any impact I could have in my community for women who are in you know, a scary place during a pregnancy, if I could do anything to bring hope and support and help a baby be born healthy that would not start out life like this little girl did that I encountered when I was in college, that I wanted to just be a part of something like that. And so, not knowing anything about how to start a nonprofit, I started Step by Step in 1997, and I got a contract with the state of Washington right away with a First Steps program, it's called. And the goals of that program are to reduce the infant mortality rate and to increase the infant birth weight. And so for almost 24 years now, we have been helping babies be born healthy in the state of Washington. We have registered nurses, registered dietitians, and master level counselors who go into the homes of women from the beginning of pregnancy and until their baby is a year old. And we work with about 1,200 women across 4 different counties, 1,200 women a year across 4 counties, Pierce, King, Snohomish, and Kitsap counties. And so we have been, had the opportunity to sit in their homes, be in their, if they're living in their cars, if they're living in a shelter, if they're living, you know, wherever, a domestic violence shelter, we go to them and we establish a relationship with them, and we work on a plan of care with them to help a baby be born healthy and to get a good start to parenting and to work on as much stability as we can for mom and for baby. And so that has been our priority over the last 24 years. We have had some other things that we've been involved in housing-wise. Housing is a very complicated issue, as you guys know, but we've had the community development block grant that we had for a long time with Pierce County, and we've done a number of programs like that, but the majority of what we've done is really working with pregnant women and newborn babies. And so as I've been raising my own children and growing step by step in my family, trying to keep both manageable for me and knowing that my first responsibility and priority is to be a mom. And I have hired many mothers over the years, some that I have worked for us for all 24 years, but they've raised their families and also worked, and I've been able to raise my family and work, and my husband has his own business. And so we've been able to really share in you know, raising our kids and being present and being with them. So about 7 years ago, when my youngest daughter was independent and a little bit more independent, wasn't nursing and napping as much, and was feeding and changing herself and those types of things in this fog that if you've had a baby before, there's kind of this fog that seems to be present for like a year after baby's born. And so when that fog kind of lifted and I was feeling like my head was clearing, I really began to think about how can we take these relationships that we have with so many women, and knowing how difficult it is to parent even under the best of circumstances. I really wanted to help not only with the birth of a healthy baby and a first year of parenting, but I wanted to be able to help teach job and life and skills, and to try to really help women to pursue where their areas of giftedness are, and to open up doors of opportunity for them beyond the birth of their baby. And so I began to think outside the box of how I could do that. I'm kind of an out of the box thinker. I grew up with a dad that was a very out of the box thinker. And so because I grew up on a farm and had farmers all in my family and in my husband's family too, I decided that I wanted to start a social enterprise, a way to have businesses that allowed for job opportunities that would also allow for time spent in really pursuing a lot and teaching a lot of skills, doing a lot of mentoring. And so I decided that whatever businesses we were going to start, I wanted to dual purpose it with the preservation of a farm. And for some people that's a stretch. It's like, how do you go from babies to a farm? But for me, it makes perfect sense. And so I set out to try to purchase the farm, and we didn't have any money at the time. Step by Step had no money. We had always just kind of run a very slim budget. We had very, very little overhead. We started Step by Step in my laundry room. So we didn't have any money to purchase property. So this was a huge stretch for me and for the organization, for my board. And we started trying to buy the Edgewood Flower Farm. Is anyone familiar with where that is, the Edgewood Flower Farm? And there was a sewer LID assigned to that property that was about $850,000 before you even to pay for the sewer LID, and all those kind of were attached. Those amounts were attached before we had the huge recession, and so there was a lot of complexity with that farm. And they ended up, if you've driven up that way, it's all apartment buildings now, and that beautiful barn, historic barn that used to be there, is gone, and the family was devastated. And we wished we could have saved it, but it just really didn't only penciled for very high density. So through a series of events, we were led down to the Van Lierop tulip farm. And I remember walking it the very first time with the realtor, and just my mouth just dropped, and the vision of what I could imagine being there kind of played fully in my head. And it took a long time to get Mr. Van Lierop to agree to sell the property to someone who had no money. And he did. And that was at the end of 2014. And we had about a year to raise $1.5 million, which I had never done before. I had never done a capital campaign. I had never raised that kind of money, and I had no idea how it was going to happen. But we put everything we had into it, and we did raise the money, and we purchased the property at the end of 2015. And we purchased it at the same time as the city of Puyallup purchased 18 acres of Mr. Van Lierop's property behind us. And so then we had to figure out what we were going to do, what businesses we were going to start. So we put together an advisory council of about 30 members of architects and engineers and business owners, politicians, lawyers, clients, staff, to try to dream what we would do there. And we decided on the restaurant and the event space. We have a greenhouse, and we raised another $8 million or so to build out. We completely took that building, and we didn't want to tear it down. We wanted to preserve as much of it as we could, but none of it was up to code. So we have the concrete floor that's the same, and the trusses that are the same, and some of the beams, but everything else we had to blow out and rebuild. And so we turned it into Farm 12 Restaurant and Events, which opened on November 14th of last year, just 3 months before the pandemic started. So we have has anybody been to Farm 12 besides Gretchen? Oh, good, you guys have been there, awesome. So we have, at the time when we opened, we had about 120 seat restaurant in the front, and an event center that's about between 250 and 350 people you could seat at round tables. The occupancy of that room is 665, but I'm not sure who would ever want to be in there with that many people. But we have an event hall in the back, and upstairs we have classrooms and a bridal suite. And a big part of the cost of doing all of this was a lot of infrastructure that had to go in. We had to build a whole new septic system. We had to put in parking, and we had to hook up to public water, which the property had only been on well water for its entire existence. So the cost of bringing that type of use up to an assembly use, which is lots of people in it, was just a very, very expensive thing to do. So there's reasons why people don't do what we've done, but it has been well worth all of the hard work that it's taken to get to this point. We have future plans to remodel 2 other buildings on the site. One we will build a smaller restaurant and a smaller event space. And then in the other building, we're going to partner with the YMCA to put in an early learning center for the children of the women who come and work there, and then also for the community. So we've had several businesses that have come to us to ask to partner on that project, as childcare is such a huge need for women and their families. And so we're looking forward to building out that building as well. So we opened on November 14th. We are kind of what I call a modified farm to table restaurant. We have 2 purposes. We really want to do as fresh and local as we can, but we also want to be affordable to families. Those are kind of 2 of our big priorities. And So we do as many local farms as we can. Those items, menu items, are more expensive, and then we try to keep some of the price down so that families can afford to come and eat there. When we opened, we hired about 110 employees right out of the gate, and we have been able to keep all of them employed, painfully so, through the pandemic. But it was really important to me that we were able to keep everybody on and provide stability for them through a very, very trying time for restaurants in general. We have hired a number of step-by-step moms, although it's a very small percentage of overall who we hired, because most of the women that step-by-step works with are not stable enough in their lives to be able to be a dependable and reliable employee, which we very much need to get the businesses to be viable. So we hired 5 step-by-step moms who had prior experience in hospitality, and all of them are still with us. One of them is one of our 3 managers. Her name is Rachel Hamilton, and I was on the Kelly Clarkson show with her. Did anybody see anything about that? Gretchen, you did. So I was called and asked to be on the Kelly Clarkson show, and they ended up surprising me by flying Rachel out there as well to thank me for what step-by-step has meant to her in her journey. So, and we've hired many more step-by-step moms since then, but we are working on a program side of Farm 12 that will really be kind of the classroom educational side of working with some of our moms who are really motivated and eager, but just really lacking that stability to show up. And whether that's transportation or childcare or mental health or lots of different things that are creating barriers for them to come to work. So we're looking for that program. Will be pretty expensive, and we're writing a grant right now to get that started. But we've had lots of interruptions with everything we've had to learn to do with COVID and how we are going to survive. So we will be celebrating our 1-year anniversary next month. We're going to have a great big celebration and party, not only for surviving. Many restaurants, a high percentage of restaurants don't make it the first year. And so not only did we make it, but we made it through and survived a pandemic as well, and are surviving. Although as Gretchen and I were talking about, it's not over yet. And so we're still holding our breath, but we are very grateful for the community support that we've received. Farm 12 Restaurant has been extremely busy since we reopened for dine-in after the shutdown. And so we're just very grateful for all the community support that we've received, and looking forward to that place bustling as we continue to build it out and provide opportunities for many, many, many women and families in years to come. So it is my hope that, that will be my legacy, that when I retire, I will be able to look back on that and know that many kids have gotten a good start to life because of step-by-step and because of our support of their moms and their families. So with that, I will ask you if you have any questions for me.
Maybe I missed this, Krista, but how did the moms come to you? Are they referred? Are they?
Yes, so we have a contract with the state. So when they sign up for pregnancy medical through the state of Washington, then DSHS refers them to us. And we also have a partnership with CHI Franciscans. So their OBs and WIC, their OBs and midwives refer to us, and their WIC office refers to us. And then we have a lot of referrals because we've been around so long. We have a lot of former clients that tell their friends, and they self-refer, and we have a higher and higher percentage of self-referrals. And then schools and churches, we can get referrals from almost anywhere, but our primary referrals are through DSHS and through CHI Franciscan.
Are the women, what are the issues they're coming with? Are they without a husband? Are they Are drugs a problem? Domestic violence?
Well, the only two criteria for being eligible for the program are that they are at or below 180% of the federal poverty level. Did you hear that?
I didn't get that, all of that yet.
That they are at or below 180% of the federal poverty level. So income is the major criteria, and then they're pregnant. So those are the two criteria. So a lot of people will say they're teen moms or single moms. That's not always the case. Our average age is between 18 and 24, but we some of them are married, and we might have college students, that are expecting a baby. Maybe they're married in college, they weren't expecting to have a baby, but they just don't have very much knowledge or resources or information, and are just looking for some basic support and guidance. And then we have some that are, drug use is unfortunately a big issue. Domestic violence is a big issue. Lack of education is a big issue. And really, one of the biggest issues is just they have nobody. Their support system is almost non-existent. And so that is probably the saddest thing, is the isolation and the loneliness that many of our families have, or women have. And so just creating as much of a support network for them as possible. We do quite a few things throughout the year that are, we have a Christmas party every year. We're gonna have to have a drive-through one this year, but Lighthouse Christian Center is in town, right off of 512 there, has hosted our Christmas party every year for, I think, 13, we've had one for 20 years. We've had a Christmas party, but I think they've hosted it for the last 13 to 15 years. But we have about 1,000 people that come through that Christmas party every year. And it's our way of having many of our past families come back and kind of tell us how they're doing and reconnect. We do Christmas dinner, we do family photos, which many times when we go back into their homes for visits, it's the only thing hanging in their house is this family photo that they have received at the Christmas party. And so it's just we do a couple of those things throughout the year, barbecues and picnics and ways to get them connected with other women that are in their like circumstances, and to really continue to provide that support. And then, like I was telling Gretchen, we say once you're part of the step-by-step family, you're always part of the step-by-step family. So through this pandemic especially, we've had a lot of women who have reconnected with step-by-step because we are kind of a constant in their life, and someone that they know they can always come back to and reconnect with. And Pierce County has had a lot of the foundations came together during this pandemic and put funds together to be able to apply for grants to support nonprofits through this time. So we've gotten some funding through them to be able to connect with many clients who are no longer eligible for our program, but really need some support to get through. And really the working poor who have been most affected, those clients that we have that are on government assistance have not been impacted like the working poor families that we serve. So that answer your question?
Krista, what's the service model? Do they get like a caseworker or a mentor, or what does it look like when they come for service?
So all the referrals come into our main office, and they are distributed based on their prior history. So if they had a prior preterm birth, we would connect them with a nurse. If they had prior gestational diabetes, or we would connect them with our dietitian. If they have current domestic violence issues that we know about, then we would connect them potentially with our counselors. So it depends on some of the issues that they are coming in with or presenting with. And then they are connected with one of those 3 professionals. So those are the only 3 professionals that work during pregnancy and first 2 months postpartum. We do not use volunteers. The circumstances that we are stepping into are not for many times not for volunteers. And so we do have a Walk With Me program where we do connect some of our families with a mentor, but many of the situations that we are working with really require a very experienced professional to step in and to navigate the circumstances that they step into. So, and then they create a plan of care. All of our charting is from the state of Washington and through the First Steps program. And so we have all electronic medical records. We create a plan of care. We work through that plan of care through the pregnancy and those first 2 months. And then if they are eligible for beyond 2 months, then they are referred to what's called an infant case manager for 2 months to 12 months. And that that is a less qualified position, less experience, less education, that walks along those last few months with them.
Do all your moms all of the moms are keeping their children, or do you work with some that are looking for adoption or other options?
Yeah, sometimes, they've mostly all decided to parent when they come to us. And so it's very rare that we have, over the years, it just hasn't happened very often that they have, requested to be referred for adoption, but that has happened occasionally, yes. And sometimes it's not until after the baby's born that they say, I just don't think I can do this. And occasionally we have worked with an adoption agency, but we don't facilitate the adoption. We always refer out to an agency for that.
And you probably said this, but the goal of the restaurant eventually is to finance step by step, correct? That's the relationship. Besides the hiring, it's training and also financial support for step by step.
If there comes a day when there's a profit, which has not been yet, we don't anticipate for 3 years they're having a profit without the pandemic. So yes, someday when there is a profit, which I think someday there will be, all the profits will go to step by step. But the primary purpose is to create an opportunity for us to be able to spend more time with them in a more educational, more support, more mentoring, more teaching, more guiding, and really to be able to move them, not necessarily into the hospitality industry as far as a career or job, because there are some nonprofits like Fair Startup in Seattle that's the primary purpose, is to move someone from the kitchen into the marketplace into a kitchen. And so what we're looking at really is to be able to identify what their strengths are, and to be able to move them and open up doors of opportunity for them to be able to pursue their areas of giftedness. So really it's going to start for many of them with a lot of those basic soft skills that they just have never been taught. And so and then to have the relationships and connections with local businesses, are already getting calls that when this program is up and going, we want to be the first to start. When you say you've trained them, we want to be able to hire them. So we're getting connections with businesses. We're having mentors. Like I'm meeting tomorrow for lunch with the CIO of Propel Insurance, and her thing is, we, as a woman in tech, I know how to identify women who have the propensity for technology, who have the ability to be able to go that way. And you don't really need a 4-year degree anymore. Technology is moving so quickly that if you have the aptitude, there's certificates and there's ways of teaching and coaching and moving someone through the steps to really make, a really good living in technology, or all these different, we're going to partner with Pierce College, and we had those conversations started before COVID, and partner with Clover Park and the different community colleges. There's many resources and funds to be able to work with our specific demographic that we're working with. So all those partnerships only make stronger opportunities and greater chances that doors open to take them where they would make it, where it might take 10 years for them to do on their own. So we're really looking forward to teaching those skills and moving them closer and closer to really being able to provide for themselves and their families. In, there's my favorite book is called Strength Finders, and in Strength Finders, there's a quote that I just love, and it's, "You can't be anything that you want to be, but you can be a lot more of who you were made to be," and trying to help them see who they were made to be and move them that direction. I just don't think when we've put together a think tank with 18 clients that were referred by their step-by-step case managers, that we just, for a year and a half, we just picked their brains on how can we best create a program, speak into this for us, help us to create this program that you kind of helped us to build. And just being asked that question of, where do you see yourself in 1, 5, 10 years, or something that most of them have never even had the opportunity or space to be able to think about. They're just so busy trying to just survive the hour or the day, that we can create some of that space for them to be able to think about, project out where it is that they want to be in 5 years. Any other questions?
I don't want to be the only one questioning.
Mm-hmm.
The program sounds wonderful, and I love your focus on the women and their future. I've worked in a number of programs in the past, so I'm really curious on some things. I assume you're working with them some on just planning family finance, knowing that kind of thing. How about family planning?
Yep. Yep, we do all that. We will be doing all that. We do family planning already, but working with in the area of budgeting and finances, definitely. We have a really strong partnership with Columbia Bank, and we have a person identified there that will come in and be doing some of that teaching. So we'll be bringing in a lot of outside experts to come in and kind of address those very issues. So, any other questions?
Me again, sorry.
Uh-huh.
Do you work at all with the what the program that's getting going at Good Sam, the START program? I think it is.
The OB addiction unit?
Yeah.
Yeah, they have, I'm not really sure what's going on there. They have not, that program hasn't started yet. So
Yes.
we're anxious for it to start.
Okay.
I think they were supposed to start in January, and from what I've heard, they've had some, when they opened up the walls and stuff, this is what I've just heard recently, but they had some asbestos issues and some different things that have really slowed down. But we cannot wait for that to open up. It would be wonderful. So, yes.
I'm sorry I couldn't get here on time, as you may have already covered this, but do all of your clients live there?
No, we don't have anybody that lives there.
Oh, you
No,
have apartments, you said.
We have had different arrangements with Pierce County Housing to over the years. So for a while we were leasing the apartment, and women were subleasing from us. We have never owned housing. We've never really wanted to own housing, but Pierce County has just been a very difficult system to work in. And so we don't do housing of any sort right now, except that we have a few private parties who have purchased homes that are around the farm that are available just for some of our step-by-step moms, specifically who are working there on the property now. We also have a really great relationship with Emmanuel Lutheran Church right across the street from Puyallup High School. They have that 3 coffee shop, and above it there are, I believe, 4 or 5 units that are 1-bedroom units that are solely available for some of the women that Step by Step works with. So over time, we are hoping to do more of that with private parties who want to purchase the place and allow those opportunities for us. But housing is extremely expensive and it's extremely hard to manage. And so we never did, when we purchased the property, we never wanted to mix living with working. It just is not on the same site. So it is just a place for them to come to work.
Great, thank you.
Yes.
How do you have so many connections and you've built so many relationships, and I mean, it blows my mind what you've accomplished. I mean, I can't even imagine. How do you start building those connections? How have you, I guess the question is, how the heck have you done what you've done? I mean, it is short of miraculous. I mean, it's amazing. How do you do it? You're one person.
You mean like the connections
with the bank, with the churches, with the people that are coming in to teach finances, with the medical people that you've got, with I mean, everything you've mentioned, it's all about connections and networking.
Mm-hmm. Well, we've grown a lot of those over 24 years. So a lot of those relationships, many of our relationships have just slowly grown and evolved over the 24 years. I mean, I've banked at Columbia Bank myself for almost 30 years. Step by Step has banked with Columbia Bank for all of its 24 years. The president was Melanie Dressel was my mentor I did not get any education in business. And ironically, I'm now a mentor at the Milgard School of Business. Go figure. But I have learned a lot over the years. And Melanie Dressel, who was the CEO of Columbia Bank, she passed away of a heart attack a couple of years ago. But she was extremely instrumental in teaching me a lot over the 3 years that she mentored me in the area of business and leadership as well. So the connections that we've had have truly been what has made this all possible, because like you said, I am only one person, and there is no way that I could have I've never even done my husband's a contractor, but I've never ever done a construction project before. I have never done a capital campaign before. I have never run or worked in a restaurant before. I hired Rick Ellingson, who is the owner of Bar Green Ellingson, the restaurant supply company. He was on our advisory council. We had some wonderful, wonderful individuals. We have wonderful individuals on our advisory council, but he connected me with two consultants, with a consulting firm for restaurants. And his name is Arnold Shane, and he has basically been the reason we are what we are. I've never worked in a restaurant before. I always did manual labor in high school and in college. I never worked in a restaurant. So to be able to get this size of a restaurant up off the ground has required tremendous expertise that I do not have. So.
And it's not just the restaurant. I mean, things like since I've started going, which was just after COVID, the landscaping has transformed. Mm-hmm. And you've had people out there landscaping and the landscaping makes it what it is. The plants, the person you have running the greenhouse, the rain chains. I mean, there's just all sorts of little details, the bike hanging up. There's just all sorts of little details that make it so much more than a restaurant.
Yeah. And I appreciate you noticing those things. So when I said we purchased, we first tried to buy the Edgewood Flower Farm. Bill and Donna O'Ravis were the owners of the Edgewood Flower Farm, and when of that farm. And when what we've done down at Van Lierup's did not work, I mean, that's what they envisioned happening on their farm, and us being able to preserve that. That when that didn't work, they were devastated, but they still really, really supported what we were doing. And so she came down, and I don't know if you have purchased our moss baskets or seen our moss baskets for sale.
No, but I have a suggestion for that.
Okay. So from February through Mother's Day, we grow 700 moss baskets, which are what the Edgewood Flower Farm was pretty famous for. And so when Bill and Donna Ravis came down to Van Lierup's and we built the greenhouse, they basically gave us a business in a box. They brought their product, she volunteers all her time and a tremendous amount of volunteers to make that happen. And she brought all her customers, 300 customers or so. So yacht clubs, tennis clubs, and then people who can afford those baskets, which there's not a lot of profit in those baskets, which is why a lot of people don't grow them right now anymore. But it has just been a really great experience for us to be able to continue growing them and to be able, we pre-sell all of them before we even open our door. So
that was my question, is if you pre-sell and can get on a list to.
Yeah. So, and if anybody knows, so unless we find someone who has some experience to take over that, I don't know how many more years we will be able to grow those, because they're not just typical potted plants. They're a specialty. It's a specialty for those baskets. And so we are trying to find someone who has, and ideally they would be someone who has greenhouse experience, tremendous greenhouse experience, and is retired, but would be willing to kind of give just that seasonal time into helping us with that. So Donna, I don't know how many more years she can do it, but it has been a great experience. And we go live with those usually in January, but we also have an email list that we send out to let people know that they can pre-order online. And if you want to send me I have your email address, and I can give that to our people to add you to that so that you can get an alert.
Yeah, they're beautiful.
They are.
And the hummingbirds love them.
Yes, they do. They do. So there's two hanging, and they're still looking good right now, but they're hanging on the patio of the restaurant. And so those are the colored ones that we do. We also have a lot of white ones for the weddings and stuff. But
and the honey people, are they renting? Or are they part of the picture? How does the honey store fit in?
So we have 5 tenants on the site. So we have buildings that we are not using that we are leasing out to different businesses. One of the tenants is Mr. Van Larup. We've told him he can live there the rest of his life. And so he has really enjoyed living in his house, and he can stay there. He rents his house back from us. So he will be living there until he can't live there anymore, which I hope, like my farmers in my family, they wanted to die in the easy chair of their living room and not ever have to go to a home or a facility. So that's our hope for him as well. But the honey people are a tenant.
Well, I've monopolized the conversation, but like I said, I'm a little bit of a stalker.
No, that's good. It's very easy to find out lots of information. There's been many articles that have been written, stories that have been written on the project. It's not hard to find out information. We have a really good website for both Farm 12. If you know anybody that wants to book an event, they can submit an inquiry through farm12.org. If anybody wants to apply for a position, we have the application online there. We have the story about how we got there, room rentals, those types of things. Everything is there. And then Step by Step has its own website as well.
All right.
So where should we go to put our emails on for the email list for the baskets?
Let's see, my email, if you just want to email me, my email is up here. It's Step by Step. It's Krista Linden at stepbystepfamily.org.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
And you know what, we've been a couple times because I have a couple friends that we go out to breakfast once a month, but but then your hours changed because I don't think you're open in the mornings. Or
we are.
It's
We're
later.
Open, yeah, we open at 10 o'clock Monday through Friday, and we don't start serving lunch until 11. And that's kind of been trial and error. We started out doing breakfast when we first opened, and we just don't feel like Puyallup sees us as a breakfast place. They definitely see us as a brunch place because it's absolutely packed on the weekends for brunch. But as far as breakfast, it just never worked. So we have the pastries and the coffee from 10 to 11. or any time of day. We have pastries. So we have, all of our pastries are made by in-house.
Including gluten-free, which I appreciate.
We have a couple gluten-free things, but again, we have got lots of requests for that, and then people don't come and buy them. So we have a gluten-free scone, and we have gluten-free cookies, I think, on the weekends. But it just really depends on, it has to be worth the time and labor and cost to, obviously, but we have got requests for that all the time. So if you have a gluten-free community, tell them to come buy them so that we will make more of them, because it's all dependent on sales. But we have wonderful, wonderful pastries and coffee. And then we start serving lunch at 11, and we close at 8 o'clock on the weekdays, except Friday and Saturday, and we close at 9. So
We'll have to plan a lunch then.
yes.
Yeah.
And the pastries, the cake, pieces of cake are like this. They're crazy.
Yeah.
It's like cake for 6.
Yes. So we do make all of our own cakes in-house too. And Wednesday is cake day. So every Wednesday, our pastry chefs make a unique cake that is just available until that sells out. So that has been really popular. Typically, we sell those cakes out. We start advertising on social media what the cake of the day is around 10 or 11, and we're sold out by 1 or 2. So
Wow.
they go really fast. But that's always a fun little thing that we do. And we have a fresh sheet. Right now it's lamb and a chicken dish and blackened cod. And the lamb has been extremely popular. It's amazing. It's expensive, more expensive than most things on our menu. But then we have a static menu that we always have those things, and they're fairly reasonable price. We really don't have people complaining about the prices of things. Sometimes the cake gets a little pushed back, but then people buy it and they're like, oh, we know why it's like this. So yeah, the cakes, people will drive from all over to come get the cake.
And your chef that does the soups and the salad dressings. Oof.
Yes. Yeah. So one of the cool things is that we have clam chowder always, but then we have a soup special that runs all week long, and someone from the kitchen gets assigned to create a recipe for a soup. And that's really a fun thing for some of them to do, is to be creative and to come up with the soup of the week. So all of our the buns for our hamburgers are made in house. Our focaccia buns are made in house. Our dinner rolls are made in house. So we do lots of fresh.
All right. Any other questions? Just some housekeeping. We are taking a free will offering that's going directly to Step by Step. So you can donate at our church website. And Robin, will you www.sccpl.com? Is that right?
/donate.
/donate. And then there's a drop-down menu, and if you choose speaker series, it will go straight there, or you can mail a check to the church, and then we will get that to them. And Krista, just ways that we can pray for you and support you through prayer. Just the greenhouse person is one.
Yes, there's just a lot of decisions to make, and what the future looks like with our state economy, our state budget, just God's protection over our decisions, and it's a big, we will probably be just a second. My kids everybody's starting to get anxious out there in the kitchen. But yeah, just continued covering over Farm 12 and Step by Step. And it's a big operation, much bigger than I ever envisioned when I started down this road. And by the time everything's built out, we could have 200 employees on that place, and it's just a lot to manage. And I've been I feel very fortunate. I grew step by step, very, very slowly, over 24 years. I was very intentional about every person that we hired. We would have people waiting for a job, that had been referred. We only did one public job offering in all 24 years that we, the first 24 years. And we only did that public job offering and getting ready for Farm 12 hiring. And then we went from 35 staff to 120 staff over 2 months. And there's just a lot that it's just a big operation. And I think we have the potential to, do a lot of really great things, but there's also a lot of risk in doing what we're doing. I mean, this has not been, this has been a project that has taken a lot of faith and a lot of, we've taken a lot of risk. So for sure. And I am comfortable with that, probably more comfortable than my board of directors, who have been wondering what in the world my vision is for all of this and how to keep up and how to help support me in this. But I think we're very thankful that we've made it this far, and just I'm encouraged. I'm encouraged for the future. I think there's been lots of good things that we've learned out of COVID, and it's been really hard, but I'm looking forward to great things coming from Farm 12 and step by step. So just protection, wisdom.
Very much so. Well, we will let you go be with your family. I would announce the next speaker, but I don't remember what it is. Yes, Arts Downtown Puyallup. So that'll be Becky Condra. That will be fun to hear about. So, and thank you, Mary, for helping us get the word out. We appreciate that. So, all right. Thank you, Krista. Blessings.
Thank you, Krista.
So, thank you.